Welcome back to another video, and this is my collective makeup review for March. Welcome back, and today we are going to be doing my collective makeup review for March. So in these videos I review all other makeup products that I have been trying about during the last month or so, except for eyeshadow palettes. For eyeshadow palettes I do have a separate video which should already be which for March should already be live on my channel, so you can find the video on my review playlist. And I have usually divided these videos into segments, so with today's video we do actually have at least one product or more for each segment. So we're first gonna go through some base products, then some cheek products. Most of these are cheek products. And then we have one lip product and one non-eyeshadow eye product, which is a mascara that I have almost now already tried to its end. But let's now get to the products themselves, and as always I will be showing the sort of swatch images of each product also in here, so you can kind of see them hand swatched and how they kind of look if you spread them on your skin. But let's get to the products now. So base products, I'm actually wearing part of these products today, so it might give you a better sort of judging how these look. So first one is a concealer. So I tried the Makeup Revolution Skin Silk, and this is, I think officially they're calling this maybe a brightener, and I think this is in the Fair Cool shade. So this is obviously a very light coverage concealer. I think it's quite obvious. I am wearing this over a corrector. I am trying to use up the Catrice corrector that I did got in my advent calendar last year, but I've been wearing this over that one. But even with a corrector underneath, I think it's pretty obvious that this isn't going to be the most heavy coverage concealer. And you're gonna see now the swatch images of this one, and even on my hand spread out, I think it's pretty obvious that this isn't a super high coverage concealer. Something I will have to say about the product. So this is one of the products that comes in this sort of, there's like a metal applicator. I know some people do actually like the sort of feeling this gives, that it's a bit cooling. I can agree that it's pretty cooling if you apply this on your eyes. However, my issue maybe with this one is that because it's such a light coverage product, you actually don't get a lot of product onto the metal part of this applicator. I do think you get more product actually on the sort of one part of this one. So I think with this one, the applicator maybe isn't making this one of my favorite products, because I feel that you really have to go in quite many times to get the product, and most of the product seems to get to the one part, which isn't exactly ideal if you want to focus it on certain areas on your skin. I do think you're gonna like this product if you like a particularly more of a brightening under eye product rather than a full-on concealer. However, I'm a person who already has darkness under my eyes. I also, of course, am someone in my 30s, so I have also a bit more maybe mature under eyes, so I do want my concealers actually to cover. So for me this was a nice product to try out, but after using this up, and because it has such a light coverage, I do have to use this quite a bit to get the coverage that I want. I think I'm going to be running out with this one quite quickly. I do have to give this credit. Makeup Revolution has been amping up their packaging, and I think it's going to be obvious with the two other products that I have from the brand in this video. This doesn't feel like a drugstore concealer. This actually feels rather heavy, so I think if you would have put a sort of, if you would cover my eyes and just based on the packaging evaluate is this a high-end or a drugstore product, based on just the packaging really doesn't feel like drugstore. This is very heavy, so I will give them credit for that one, but unfortunately for me and my concealer need, this is a no. Then the second base product I'm trying, and this I'm not going to be opening because it's a loose powder. So Morphe's been making a slow comeback. They have changed of their ownership, and they're clearly trying to do trying to maybe keep up more with the trends with their current product releases. So with Morphe I have actually this powder, and then there's a blush that you're going to be seeing later. This is the Bake and Set Translucent Setting Powder. I'm just going to maybe show the side. I'm gonna put also a photo of this one opened to the screen so you can kind of see the color better, because if I try to show it on the sort of camera, there's gonna be powder all over my desk. For translucent powder, I do have to say that this is actually, it kind of for me feels that it gives also a bit of coverage, and I think that would be, if you are buying a product wanting it to add a powder wanting to add coverage, that would be quite okay. But if you're advertising something as a translucent powder, meaning that it should work for different skin tones, with this one I'm a bit questioning that doesn't actually work out, because you do get a clear layer, and this actually for a translucent powder has a bit of a yellow undertone to it. I do think it's quite actually visible, and with this one I wouldn't, maybe that if you have a more like to medium or any kind of deeper skin tone, I wouldn't necessarily buy this as a translucent powder, because I do think this is definitely one of those products that is going to give you a cost. I will give this one a credit for the fact that a lot of the more inexpensive drugstore loose powders, some of them have a tendency that, because it's a cheaper powder formulation compared to some high-end powders, that when you kind of open the powder, it's like a flower back effect where you have like powder coming out even if you just open it. But with this one I'm happy to say that it doesn't have this sort of flower back effect, but actually the powder, when you open it, it stays in the package, and then you can like put your, I still use brushes, but I do know many of people use the sponges these days, but with this one I can definitely say that it's not as messy as some drugstore powders that I've tried in the past. I think for me it's okay. I can kind of get away with the fact that the powder does seem to have a bit like a yellow, like light yellow cast under it. I do think because I have such a fair skin tone, it kind of mixes in with the other base products that I am wearing, but I don't think they should maybe advertise this as translucent powder, because I do feel that it kind of isn't translucent, and on some skin tones it can mean that this could potentially look quite funny. But if you're okay with the sort of light yellow undertone that this has, and you're looking for a good basic loose powder from drugstore, I don't think this is a bad option. I think it keeps the oils at bay quite well. My skin has been moving towards, maybe it's not as oily as it used to be. I've been definitely also struggling for the fact that on some areas my skin seems to be dry these days, which is a very funky combo, because I still do tend to have the oils coming through during the duration of the daytime. But I do think this holds up with my other makeup products relatively well. But is this anything extraordinary for a drugstore powder? No, I can't really say that this is like any better than some of the other drugstore powders that I have tried, especially with loose powders previously. But I think it's a good option. Just be aware that the translucent shade actually, it does have kind of a yellow cast to it. Okay, then we're gonna move to cheek products. On my we do have a lot. I do have to say we do have quite a few of these that I do think are gonna be like my sort of favorites so far what I've tried this year. So let's first show the other Morphe product that so far seems to be the I think best from the. I have two blushes in this one, so this is the better one. So these are these sort of very swirly blushes. These are called the Huephoric Rush 3-in-1 Silk Blush, and this is in the shade Intoxicated. So I think how they advertise these is that these are supposed to have some kind of priming qualities to them, and I'm just gonna show the shade close by. So it is a more deeper mauve shade. I do have to say, I think this is a very beautiful cream blush formula. I wasn't so, when I was sort of buying the Morphe products thinking that okay, I'm gonna give them a try, because I have tried Morphe previously. It's one of the few like very known like drugstore brands that are actually like available. I can actually go buy these in store and kind of see the products before I buy them. And I have tried their products previously, but the experience was pretty mediocre. So now when they have done the sort of revamping, I was kind of thinking that okay, let's see how I'm gonna like this. But the blush is definitely a hit. I do think it kind of gives you the sort of blurred effect, and I do think the finish of this, I would describe it more as a satin blush. It doesn't dry down completely into a sort of like matte variation, but it's not something that's gonna, even though it has a bit of more satin-esque finish, it will still like dry down, so you don't have to be worried about the product moving around on your cheeks. Do I think that is the sort of like the swirl in the middle, I think it's going to be something that's not going to be staying once I use this bit more, because the swirl is definitely going to disappear. And I don't know, is it the fact that they're advertising this, that there's some kind of primer qualities which makes it blurring, or what is it? But I do think that if you are looking for a good cream blush and Morphe is something that you want to try out, I do think this might be actually quite of an okay option from the drugstore. Definitely, considering the amount of cream blushes that I've tried now for the last few years, this is definitely like one of the formulas that goes up with some of the more even like higher end formulas, or some of the indie blush formulas that I've been liking. So for me, at least this one is a recommendation. Then let's get to the two other Makeup Revolution products that I have for this video, and the blush I'm actually wearing today, so let's maybe first talk about that one. So I bought two of these they came out with these new stick bronzers and blushes, and the blush is, what was the shade of this one? Rosy Cheek was the shade that I am currently wearing. This is a more what I would call it's almost like a peachy orangey leaning rose shade. I do have to say from two of these, how should I say, I don't think the blush is as blendable as the bronzer shade, which I'm gonna be talking about after this one. With this one, when I was trying it for the first couple of times, I did try to do the test, which is usually a pretty good test to these cream blushes that are in this kind of tube format, is that I went directly stamping in a few dots to my cheek and then trying to blend it out with my brush. And I do have to say that even though I was kind of initially, it looked like it was going to blend pretty evenly, but then I did notice that to the places where I stamped the product, there was some patchiness. I did have to go over with a sponge to even it out. So for the remaining of when I've been trying this out now in my rotation, I have done so that I have directly got some product with my blush brush, and then I have stamped some of the brush to the back of my hand and then gone over for my cheeks. And in that kind of way, and this is a method that I do use with quite many of my liquid blushes, it does go out quite evenly, and I do think it's a nice shade in general. But perhaps considering how soft this formula feels, and this actually goes to the bronzer, this feels very soft to the touch, and you do get quite a lot of pigment from this at one go, so maybe something to consider, that if you're eyeing these Revolution blush sticks, that you do have to kind of use a light hand if you are more for buildable blushes. If you like a very pigmented blush on the go, you're gonna like this one. But with the blush formula, I wouldn't go straight stamping this on my cheek, but I would rather put some on my hand or just directly to the brush and then start layering it, because I did feel that if you stamp this directly on your cheeks, I wasn't able to blend it out that evenly. However, something that did work out marvelously with the brush was the bronzer. So mine is in the shade Sand, which is the fairest shade from the I think they had 4 or 5 shades altogether. So this is how it's looking. This was, I think this formula is very on par with the Kiko Milano's bronzer stick formula that I tried from the brand's limited edition summer collection last year. This is exactly the kind of stick bronzer formula that I want, which means that I can go it directly to my cheeks, and then with a sort of bronzer contouring brush I can spread it out and it looks beautiful. And this very much reminds me of the Kiko Milano formula. It blends, but it doesn't blend away, because that's usually a concern, that if a cream formula is very blendable, then you're kind of running in a risk that, okay, but is it so blendable that it's going to blend out completely? But with this one, I did feel that you actually still have pigment on your cheeks. So the bronzer formula was definitely my favorite. In terms of shade undertones, because for the longest time, because Makeup Revolution has been actually doing their cream bronzers and contours quite well for some time now. However, with the couple of other products that I have tried in the past, and I have discussed this, there's been the issue that the fairest shade's undertone hasn't been matching. I have had the issue with them that they've been either too yellow or green leaning, which is it's a very unusual undertone. Usually with warmer products you either come with the fact that either the undertone is very cool leaning almost to a grey side, or it can be warm leaning to the to this maybe more orangey side. But with Makeup Revolution it's been a bit of a strange that it's almost like this greenish yellow undertone. I think this is now the closest that we have gotten to an undertone that actually suits me. It is still on the more, I would say, maybe orangey, well, not orangey, but very warm side, but I do feel that with this one, it doesn't look funny compared to maybe some of the other contouring cream bronzer products that I've tried from the brand past. So if you are someone like me who has a more cool leaning undertone, or even more of a light neutral undertone, I do think this might, if you have had similar issues that I have had with Makeup Revolution's previous bronzer and contour products, this formula might actually work for you. And I do say that even though with the blush I felt that I couldn't directly go with it to my cheeks, I still do think that overall this sort of stick formula that they now have for blushes and bronzers, I do think this is a formula that I would recommend looking into if you're looking for good cream products from the drugstore. Then I think the most perhaps surprising products from this video, aside maybe from the Morphe blushes, so I actually got one of the L'Oreal's Lumi Glow highlighters. It took a while for these to come to Europe. I know this has been available on States for some time now, but they recently launched these in Europe, and I got the sort of pinkish shade. I now have to check what was the shade name of this one. It was Glassy Pink Ballet. And if you're looking at the shade, you're probably like thinking that okay, but you have fair skin, and that it might carry a very pink, like a pink cast over it. I do have to say, initially when you do apply this to your cheeks, and if you don't blend it out, yes, it's gonna look like you have a sort of like a pink cast that has a sort of glowy finish over it. But once I actually blend this out with your blush, the cast disappeared, and this is one of the few stick highlighters, because I've been having the worst of luck with stick highlighters. I've generally tried to avoid them because these are usually the kind of product that I have the issue with, that these are gonna lift my makeup. And when I usually tried this with my finger, I was thinking that okay, that feels very emollient to the touch, so was this another misbuy? But actually this one, I didn't feel that it messed up the makeup that I had underneath the product. So this one I actually liked a lot. How should I describe the finish? It's not, I do think that especially for someone who, like me, who already has big texture on their skin, I do feel this is a very flattering highlighter. It doesn't emphasize textures. There's also, it's not gonna be like having these individual like sparkles, but rather it gives a nice sheen. So overall also I felt that the finish was quite nice, and something that because I was a bit unsure what I was actually expecting from this one, but I do have to say that if you especially enjoy a highlighter that gives more of a nice glassy sheen rather than gives like individual sparkles, I do think you're going to be liking the L'Oreal stick highlighters quite a lot. And they did have 4 shades with this one, and I do think the shade variety was quite decent for a drugstore, so I think most people are going to find a suitable shade from the range. But for me, this was a very surprising favorite, and actually so far I think this might be actually from one of my favorite highlighter formulas that I've tried for this year. So go L'Oreal. Really wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. Then to the last product. So another product that these have been already available on States for a while, but it took some time for it to get to Europe. So e.l.f. launched their sort of extended their Camo line, so they now have bronzer / contouring shades. I'll put a slash because some of these are more warm leaning and some of these are cool leaning. The shade that I tried was this just called Fair, and this was one of the more cool tone shades. I was kind of thinking what to, also with this one I was having certain expectation, because the blush that I tried within these products during last year, the blush was very punchy. The blush formula was the cream formula in this Camo line generally is very blendable and very nice to work with, but you definitely couldn't get a subtle blush look with the blushes in this line. So I was thinking that okay, let's see how the bronzer is like. I do actually have to say with the bronzer, it seems that they didn't maybe go as heavy-handed with the pigment. You can definitely get a very pigmented finish with this one if it's something you enjoy, but for me it felt that if I just went with 2 dots to each side and then I blended out, it was actually a rather nice finish where I didn't feel that there's streaks on my cheeks, but it's still the product showed up. So I do think this is maybe a bit more manageable formula, at least in the fair shade, compared to the blushes, which seem to be very pigment immediately on the go, and where you didn't really have options to go light if you wish to do so. So I think that if you've been if you felt that the blushes were maybe a bit too punchy, but you're still interested in trying out the bronzer formula, then maybe this might actually be a bit better. But with this one, definitely, if you do go heavy-handed with this one, you are gonna get a heavy-handed look. So it still does have the pigment, but it is a bit more maybe on the buildable side compared to the liquid blushes in the same line. Is this how will this rank? I do think from drugstore cream green bronzers and contours, I do actually think this is one of the better formulas that I do like. I still do think that you do have to work with this one a bit. It doesn't if you immediately blend it out once you put it on your cheeks, you're not gonna have any streaks or patchiness, but I do still think that this might still not be the absolute best of the cream and liquid bronzer contour products that I have tried, but I do think that if e.l.f. is a brand that's easily accessible to you, I would give this one a go, because I do think a lot of people will enjoy this formula, and for me it was an easy to work with. It's not maybe anything revolutionary in terms of cream bronzers, but I do think this is a formula that a lot of people would enjoy and would be able to get good results on. So we only have one lip product for today, so with the cream bronzer, and then there was the eyeshadow palette that I got from e.l.f. I did try these sort of glimmery lip oils, also became available in our country, and mine is in the shade, I think it was Wine. Divine Wine was the shade of this one. So these are one of those lip oils that I think we have seen now quite a lot. It has this very big fat doe foot applicator, and then you can see the sort of product also close by. There's something a bit strange about this formula, is that it feels kind of almost a bit dense when you apply this to your lips, because usually with lip oils especially, you're kind of expecting it to be maybe more thinner in terms of consistency compared to lip glosses, and you're expecting them to feel very hydrating, but this definitely feels a bit like almost dense when you apply it again to your lips, so that's just something that I felt when I was using this one. Second thing I was a bit like maybe baffled about was that even though in the tube it looks that this has quite a lot of shimmer particles, but actually on the lips, for example, I was kind of comparing this to maybe like Fenty gloss bombs, or even to something that I have with my Kiko Milano 3D lip glosses. And because at least in the tube this seemed that this could potentially have the same amount of shimmer than those, but actually when you apply this to your lips, it's not as sparkly as the product sort of implies when you look at it in the tube. Well, I think that this is one of those lip formulas that I'm not gonna go out and buy more shades, because it sort of for me doesn't feel like what maybe a lip oil should feel like. So I don't think, because it is a bit of a sort of feels like a denser formula, I felt that I did have to go quite many times over with this one by dipping in the sort of doe foot to the package to get some product, because I felt that because the formula seems to be a bit denser formula, it kind of made me feel that I had to go applying it quite many times over and over again. I do like the shade of this one. This will give a bit of a color, and if you wear this under a sort of wine colored lip line, you're gonna have a pretty nice lip combo, but I do think overall this maybe wasn't the best of the lip products that I've tried from e.l.f. because I was kind of having high expectation for this one, because I did like their sort of lipsticks. Those were one of the best lipstick formulas that I actually tried doing last year, so I was having quite high expectations for this one, but for me it's just not maybe the most appealing lip formulas that I have tried, especially since I have now tried my fair share of lip glosses and lip oils, and this kind of, because it's a bit of a stranger formula, it's just not maybe something that I'm as into. So last product for today is a mascara. With mascaras, it takes a bit for me a longer time to review these, and I actually do use up my mascara, so you don't see usually a lot of those during the year, because I actually do use those up. So I tried the Estee Lauder, and I think this is called the Turbo Lash Mascara. I'm gonna put the full name in the description box, because I don't have the cardboard packaging of this one, and the mascara doesn't really say, it doesn't say the name in the tube. But this is how the packaging looks like. I got these because Estee Lauder actually had during last year's Black Friday, they had in one of the department stores a deal that you would get these half off. I usually don't like spending that much money into my mascaras. I'm much more of a drugstore mascara person in general, but because I was able to get this relatively cheap, I thought that why not give it a try, because at the time I do think this wasn't like, I think Estee Lauder launched this particular product last year, so I was thinking that okay, let's try that one out. This is the mascara that I'm currently wearing and that I have been wearing in my last couple of videos, and this is, I think they are advertising this as a volumizing mascara. I do have to say, unfortunately, I don't like this one, and I'm quite happy I didn't pay full price for this one. And I think I'm gonna just show close by already, you can maybe get the hint why I'm not liking this one. So this is a very thick and gloopy mascara formula. It has now dried down because I haven't had this open like almost over a month now. First of all, the using this for the first couple of weeks was pretty much a nightmare, because you got so much of the product on the tube, and no matter how much you try to do this where you try to like get some of it off by scraping it to the mascara tube, you still had a very lot of like mascara, and because it was such a wet formula and because it's such a clumping formula, I had a very difficult time getting this to spread even on my lashes. I actually had to do something that I don't usually have to do with a lot of mascaras, which is that I had to go with a sort of a lash brush that I do actually have in my sort of brush kit, and I had to go it over, like comb it over, because there was just so much mascara, like the mascara product on my lashes. And because it's such a gloopy formula, and because the wand doesn't seem to do too much separation, it was just very difficult to work with. Now that the formula has dried down a little bit, it's a bit easier to work with, but because it has dried down, it kind of still tends to do that now there's a lot, it gets like somehow even more clumpy to the lash, like to the mascara brush, because it's like more drier now. And because it is quite of a sort of plumping product, I don't know is it visible, but you can maybe kind of see that because it gets so clumpy, there's a lot of product that goes like all over the wand. And yeah, if you like a extremely clumping mascara, then you might like this one. But if you're someone who wants separation, especially if you're someone who likes to have some workability with your mascara, then I would steer you to maybe like any kind of other mascara. I do think the volumizing effect of this one, it does give you volume, and the result, because it's such a very heavily clumping formula, and because the lash one really doesn't do any separation, you are definitely gonna get volume, but it doesn't necessarily, at least for me, it didn't in a lot of these look very nice, because the volume was more about the product just clumping together in your lashes rather than separating them in a nice way. So yeah, pretty disappointing. I'm happy that I didn't pay the full price for this one, but I just wouldn't like recommend it to spend your money on this one. I do think that there might be even other like volumizing mascaras on the market that you can still get separation, and you can actually work with that mascara formula. So those were all the products we had for today. Comment down below, what did you think about the products? Have you tried any of these? How did you like them? Or if there's been some other products that you have tried during the previous month or so, what were sort of your favorites or fails, if you had some that you would like to warn us about. I think from these one, which products were like my sort of like top favorites from the ones that I discussed. I do think surprisingly it was maybe like these two, so the Morphe blush and then the Lumi Glow highlighting stick, products that I didn't have that high of expectations for, but actually I do think that these are going to be, unless something, because we're still in the beginning of the year, but these do have a potential to be on my sort of top products list at the end of the year, because I do think the formulations of these were pretty excellent, especially considering that these are at a drugstore price. If you like this video, push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell button if you want to get notifications from future content. You can also find me with the same nickname, Makeup Hedgehog, on Instagram. I hope we can see you soon in the video. Bye bye!